In 3, 2, 1. Welcome into our Instant Reax podcast for week number 5. WQAD The Score has just wrapped up. I'm Greg Armstrong, alongside of Bryan Stocking, Corey Kuffler, Matt Randazzo. We'll talk all things Friday Night Football and week 5, everything that happened, all our instant reactions. Before we get into all that, really heavy subject to start with. Just terrible news out of Rock Falls earlier today. Brock Parker, a player at Rock Falls, the son of head coach Kevin Parker for the Rock Falls Rockets, passed away due to injuries from a car accident last week. Our thoughts and prayers are with Rock Falls, with the football team, with everybody in the community. It's unbelievable, just awful news. So our thoughts and prayers certainly go out to them and to everybody. We did have a lot of great high school football tonight. It's impossible to transition from that. But Matt Randazzo, Corey Kuffler, Bryan Stocking, and myself will give you our instant reactions. We got to start in the Western Big Six. And I think we start with Sterling. We go down the road from Rock Falls. They were affected as well. I mean, I saw their athletic director put on his Twitter account the green heart, showing support for Rock Falls. They played football tonight against their longtime rival, Geneseo. They come away with the 31-0 win. I'll start, Dazzle. I'll start with you. What did you think going into this one? Did you see 31-0? Did you see a shutout?
I was impressed. I've been impressed with Sterling, and they got healthy last week. They were able to sit some guys, get some guys healthy, playing Alleman. I thought they'd beat Geneseo. I thought it would be. I don't think it'd be a close game. The 0 is what got me, because Geneseo can score. Their offense is pretty good. Struggled the last couple weeks. They only scored 7 against Galesburg the week before. But to shut out a Geneseo team at Bob Reed Field, that's the thing about Sterling is we talk about their running backs, their quarterbacks, the quarterback situation, who's healthy, who's not. Their one constant is that defense. It's been good all season. It was really good again tonight. And we're starting to get a clearer picture in the Western Big Six. And you look at the 2 undefeated teams right now, Sterling and Moline, they're on a collision course for, I think, week 8, Cuff, and a really good football game. Obviously, there's 2 games played before that, but Sterling is one of the 2 best teams right now in the Western Big Six, and they proved that tonight with an impressive victory. Yeah,
they getting Drew Kested back for them, I think, was a huge bonus, and you saw that in some of their highlights. Cuff, Moline continues to roll. I know, maybe we expected it. Dazzle's already shaking his head. The Alleman grad is
running up the score.
The Alleman grad is not
Father's birthday. Turned 90.
on Father Mirabelli's 90th birthday.
Happy birthday to the GOAT. He's like a fine wine. He ages with time. He looks great.
That is not what the saying is. He ages with time.
We all age with time.
I think he ages
like a fine wine.
Here we go. Let Bryan Stocking.
He ages like a fine wine.
He gets better with time.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say.
There you go.
Anyways.
All right. Well, we're all.
Happy birthday, father, is what I meant to say. Move on.
As we all age with time.
90 years old. Wow.
So I was trying to add up. Stocking will know real quick. What's the point total for Moline over the past 2 weeks?
Well, let's see. 56 and 63. 119.
119-0, right? Wow.
First back-to-back shutouts in the conference by Moline since 1999.
So, Cuff, can this Moline team keep things rolling? I mean, they are the clear-cut best team in the Big Six, right? Yes? Can we say that?
Can we?
You can say that, but I still think until somebody beats Sterling's the team to beat in the Big Six. I mean, they are two-time defending champs.
That's a good point.
I think they've lost 1 game ever in the Western Big Six, right?
UT.
To UT last year, yes.
So, but as far as Moline goes, offense is very dynamic. Ponder is operating that offense at a very high level. Grant Sibley, Gavin Grace, Matthew Bailey, all doing a great job. And the unsung heroes to me is that front line. They are huge up front. They have a lot of guys up front that are really big. They open that hole for Gavin Grace and the other guys, and they're really good defensively as well. Now, again, Alleman played with a short field, or they had a short field because Alleman couldn't move the ball tonight, whatever. It was one of those things where they didn't play their starters even in the second half. They needed to rest some guys, so they did that. Not shocked by the score. I'm curious to see if they can keep it rolling, though. I don't see why they can't at this point.
Next week intrigues me, and UT fell again tonight. We'll talk about them in a second, but Moline's kind of like on this revenge tour where they lost to Alleman. They took care of that tonight. They lost to UT last year for the first time.
They lost to Rocky last year, too. So 3 straight games, and I know it was last year, but it's such a quick turn from last year to this year that that's a big game next week. It's a rivalry game. It really put United Township on the map when they beat Moline last year. Moline remembers that, so that'll be an interesting game next week.
It's at the Soul Bowl. Is at the Soul Bowl, and that is not an easy place to play.
It's all about the Soul Bowl. That's going to be a good one. That's a great matchup next week.
But who is the best team in the Western Big Six?
That's the question.
I think right now you have to say it's Moline, based on their defense, based on their offense, based on their overall body of work. I mean, Sterling's been great, but that loss to Montini was by 7. Moline's loss to Bennett was by, I think, 3. Yeah, 3. So, I mean, you look at the body of work. I mean, and Moline went and took apart Rock Island by 63, and then they beat Allman tonight. I mean, beating Rock Island by 63 is not an easy task.
I think right now, you could say Moline is probably in the driver's seat as the top team in the Big Six.
Your twin brother.
But hold on, but
brother John Schlemmer is just throwing his phone or whatever.
All right. So the big but coming in here is though Sterling is healthy or they're getting healthy, and I think like Dazzle, like you pointed out, their defense has been there. The offense hasn't really been shabby. I mean, I don't think it's been bad, but it helps to get you the guy you anticipated being your starting quarterback back in the mix, and to throw a 31-0 shutout against your rival. I think they're on the path. And hey, can we give a little shout out to Galesburg? They go on the road. They avoid what I think could have been that letdown game. You go on the road to Quincy. We saw Moline give up a ton of points at Quincy in the first half before they kind of righted the ship. Quincy had none of that. What'd they win by? What was the final tonight?
35-9.
Bird Pride, baby!
That's right, Bird Pride, baby.
Cam Aguirre, the turning point of that game came when it was 21-9. Quincy was trying to score. There was a pass. It was tipped. Cam Aguirre, I believe is the name, picked it off in the air at the goal line and went 100 yards coast to coast, made it 28-9 ball game.
I'm telling you, I like Galesburg. I like them every year, but I like Galesburg this year.
We said all along though there's probably about 5 teams that could win the Big Six this year, and Galesburg we said probably had some of the most talent. So it doesn't surprise me that now that they're back on track, that things are working really well for them right now.
2-1.
They're 2-1.
Who'd they lose to?
Galesburg lost to Sterling in a game that they were winning late in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Sterling has shut out their last 2 opponents. No, they shut out Geneseo. I was going to say they shut out their last 2 opponents, but they shut out Geneseo in back-to-back years.
All right. We are going to be in a lot of trouble here with Ben Hammer if we talk this much about the Western Big Six, and we've only mentioned that they got beat a week ago to Moline, which everybody's talked about. So here we go. Rock Island, they get the huge win over United Township. Talk about a bounce back win. They needed it. Who was there tonight? Who could talk about it?
It was me. And that's the thing is, first off, we're always in trouble with Ben. I can't get into that guy's good side, but you look at it's funny because it's not funny, but last week was tough.
No, last week was not funny for him at all.
No, but his birthday was Saturday, and then tonight
it was Sunday.
It was Sunday.
It was last. I messed up the fine wine comment, and now I don't even remember Ben Hammer's birthday. I don't know my own kids' birthday. Sorry, Coach. But then
you know yours.
This week. Nick Welch's birthday
was tonight.
Oh man, this is rough.
So it's like Cuff kind of good point. It's like they're regifting gifts. Like Morrissey's gift to Ben Hammer was a whooping, and then he regifted that and gave it to Nick Welch. I don't know.
And how weird is this? That last week when Galesburg got their first win in conference, it was Coach Blackwell's birthday on Saturday. What is with all these Big Six coaches? They're all born in the same 2 weeks.
That's rather interesting.
Rocky looked like the Rocky we expected tonight. And the weird thing is they've been shut out twice this year. And they haven't had a lot of home games. This is only their second home game. But if I would have told you to start the season that it would be the second quarter of Week 5 before Rocky scored a touchdown at home, you would have thought that it was crazy. Now, there was just one loss to Pekin, but it was 6-0 when I got there second quarter. And I guess Ben Hammer needs me to stay the entire game because while I was there for like 8 minutes, they scored 21 points. Eli Reese looked fantastic. They got speed all over the field.
Kyrios, he's a beast.
He's a big dude that's mobile, played really well. So we talked, Greg, I think last week on the Reax. Interesting to see which coach could do a good job of mentally getting. I think UT was ready. They came out great. They led 6-0 early, so they were ready. But the thing wasn't physical with that game. It was mentally getting past 2 disappointing losses last week and playing well this week. Hats off to Rock Island. They did a great job with that. And now they play at Galesburg next week. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, Stock, here we go.
They are at Galesburg. The thing also, Eli Reese.
2-1 teams.
Yes, and Eli Reese tonight, 5 touchdown passes. Rocky fell behind real early, like 6-0. It's like, are they going to be the one that's going to be? Are they going to be the one that's down? And they just said no, and they came back and they really gave it to UT.
It was homecoming at Rock Island. You got to win your homecoming game, right?
Know, but they were down 6-0 real early, and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go again. And then they said, not this week. And
Katie bar the door, baby.
It was Katie bar the door after a few touchdowns from Eli Reese.
I just want to know if that was Ben Hammer's full speech to the team after UT scored. He said no, and that was it, and that motivated the whole team, right? Stock, is that it? No.
They said no, and then it was
Katie bar the door.
Yeah.
Katie bar the door after that.
All right, Stock, give me your best.
The best analyst in the business for nothing, everybody. Bryan Stocking right there.
Give me your best stats from the Western Big Six in Week 5.
The best stats I have are 2 with the shutouts. Talk about defense coming back in the Western Big Six.
Take that, Armstrong.
Here we go.
You're your Western Big 12.
Sterling blanked the same opponent in back-to-back years for the first time since they blanked Ottawa in 2017 and 18. And for Moline, this is their first back-to-back shutouts in the Western Big Six of opponents since 1999 when they shut out Allman and UT in back-to-back weeks.
Do you know who the coach was for Moline back then?
Was it McGuire?
It was Dan McGuire, yes, very good.
Can't get anything past Stocking.
The second stat is gold. The first stat's fool's gold. It's
It
like
was.
2 years.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
I
2
agree.
years.
I agree.
You're full of it.
All right, there's our instant reacts from the Western Big Six. Let's move into the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. Dazzle, you let me go to one game and just camp out the whole time.
I was way too good to you tonight. Like, it was the game you wanted to go to, and I didn't even give you a game before it. I'm like, go have a pork chop and watch the best game of the year.
It was awesome. Princeton comes out, guns a-blazing, as you'd expect. Tegan Davis up top to Bennett Sirens, 72 yards, touchdown. And you can't help but think, like, here we go. Like, Kiwani's got to find a way to stop these guys. And it just, they're off to the races like they do. And, man, Kiwani, Will Bruno, Keontae Patterson, they didn't Nico Poe had the touchdown catch, the first one to make it 7-7. Man, they did not skip a beat. They threw a huge pass down the sideline. Then a couple plays later, the beautiful pass from Bruno to Poe right on the edge of the line on the end zone to get in. That made it 7-7. It went back and forth. Man, I give a ton of credit to Kiwani's defense. They played and special teams came up with huge plays in the first half that ended up being the difference maker. But man, their defense played so physical and just they didn't miss many tackles. And I think what really impressed me was Princeton was able to beat them up top several times, a couple different times. Those led to big touchdowns. But what Princeton wasn't able to do was really get those those short yardage gains. They weren't able to go turn a play from 5 yards to 10 or 15 or 20 yards. They were getting stopped. They were getting slowed down. Man, just huge credit. They were up. Kiwani was up 28-21 at half. And I went to edit highlights. And man, by the time I got back out there, Kiwani had put up three more touchdowns. And from there, it was over. I mean, just a really impressive effort.
We had the Kiwani boys on the score on Sunday, and they knew the last time that they had beat Princeton was 6 years ago. They were in like 7th or 8th grade, and they were like, we want to be that team to win again. They wanted that trophy back, which they got. And we had Coach on tonight.
Cool trophy.
Yeah, very cool trophy. But we had Coach on tonight, and he talked about how their week of practice was probably the best week they've had. He figured if they could practice like that all year, they may have no problems. And the way they played tonight, I tend to agree with that. And for the rest of the state, I hope they're taking notice. They beat the number 2 team in the state to only be receiving votes. I think they're a top 5 team right now.
Yeah, I think they got to jump in the standings. People have to take note of this win. I mean, the atmosphere out there was great. It's one of the best regular season football games.
It was homecoming for them.
It was homecoming for them, obviously against their biggest rival, the 123rd all-time meeting between Princeton and Kiwani. Just awesome. But the atmosphere was electric. It's one of the best regular season games I've been to in years. It was really exciting.
It seems like every time we have Kiwani highlights on, they beat you in all 3 facets.
Exactly.
I don't mention special teams, but it's such a big deal when you can not just be good on special teams, but make plays on scoring on special teams. And they did it tonight. They've done it in the past, and their defensive score has scored on touch for them as well. So, well-rounded team. Congrats to Coach Swanson. 2 weeks in a row on the score. We're going to change the score to the Swanson. Change the name of the show because he's been great. So best of luck to them. We looked at their schedule. They got some. I think towards the end they go Rock Ridge, Newman.
Yes.
So they'll have a few more tests and taking nothing away from the next 2 weeks' opponents. I don't memorize their schedule. But they have
Mendota.
So they do have some, and Mendota's a good football team too, but things are shaping up nicely. They've beaten Monmouth-Roseville, which we'll talk about here in a second. Really impressed with what they've done and really intrigued to see what they do in 3A in the postseason and farther than that. So
when you look at Kiwani, I think the thing is they have a diversity of weapons on offense. You know, Will Bruno, and also, a lot of them are 3-year starters.
3-year starters, yeah.
So you got Will Bruno, who was a 3-year starter at quarterback. You've got Nico Poe at wide receiver.
sorry, Nico, for calling you pal.
Yeah, we've been calling him Powell for a while, so we got it right now.
And also, not only is it just him, there's also Jordan Johnson, who actually has more TD receptions because I think they each caught one tonight, so now it's 7-6 Johnson. And plus they have Patterson in the backfield, and that kid is unbelievable. I mean, last week he had scored 3 different ways. I mean, this Kiwani team is probably the best team in the 3 Rivers. And when you look at Princeton's a very good team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, people are going to go, wow, they got beat by 28. But I think the one team that could stand up and give them a beat down like this is Kiwani because they've got so many weapons. And for Princeton, they've got a ton of it. They've got a dizzy of a game next week. They host Newman.
A dizzy of a game.
A dizzy of the game.
Hey, we all misspeak. We all misspeak every once in a while. It's okay.
No.
You are the prime example of that. It is going to be a doozy of a game, a whale of a game. Newman at Princeton next week.
A doozy, a dizzy, a whale. It's going to be a lot of things about that game.
Friday night at Bryant Field, at historic Bryant Field.
Awesome. So, get real quick before we wrap up Kiwani. Keontae Patterson, 2 plays that did not make the highlights tonight. He had a play where he ran up the middle. He did literally about 5 spin moves. I would have fell over because I was so dizzy. I fell over dizzy because I was. Yeah, one of the two.
Both.
Yeah, or both. He made so many moves, and it ended up being a gain for 15 yards. A couple plays later, a snap goes over Will Bruno's head. He's the first one to get back. It goes back about 12 yards. He goes back and gets it and still gets about a 15 to 20-yard gain out of it. Wow. It was just, I'll try to get him posted on Twitter because it was crazy. It's those plays that will never make highlights, but everybody will be talking about those plays.
It's a heart and hustle play because a lot of times it's it's not my ball, and he went and got it and tracked it down. I mean, that shows heart, that shows hustle, that shows determination.
I call those the Bryan Stocking plays, the heart, the hustle, determination.
He makes those plays every night sitting in the command module.
Absolutely. All right, what other games in the 3 Rivers?
Monmouth-Roseville's won 4 in a row. Congratulations to Jeremy Adolphson and that group. Really impressive effort, and they just grind and pound and get the job done. And it's an impressive Their 2 drives in the first half were both 99-yard drives. So they were up 12-0 at the half. And their defense to only give up 15 points to that Rock Ridge offense, and throughout the area, it was the rain was a factor throughout the area and stuff like that. But for both teams, so early on that affected that game, I think, more than maybe some others. But Monmouth-Roseville, 4 straight games now, 4-1 overall. They got some tests coming up, but that team continues to get better and better. Congratulations to them. And Rock Ridge, another tough, close loss. They've had the 2 points last week. Now this week, 3 points. So they're 5 points in the last 2 weeks. They could be 4-1. Now they're 2-3. They've got some work to do to secure themselves a playoff spot. But do you want to see Rock Ridge in the postseason? If you're an opponent, I mean, that's going to be a really good 6-3, 5-4 team in the postseason. So an interesting game out there. Lived up to the hype. And congrats to Monmouth-Roseville.
And Silas Braun can spin it. He's pretty good at quarterback back there. He's the son of the head coach from Monmouth. So,
for Rock Ridge, their worry is the end of the season. The last 2 games at Kiwani, at Orion. That game against Orion, they could be 4-4, have to win to get in the playoffs. And Chip Filler will make sure his players know, hey, we can knock Rock Ridge out of the playoffs.
Back to doom and gloom. Back to Mr. Negativity.
Doom and gloom stock.
I'm just saying, stating a fact. Rock Ridge is 2-3. They're probably going to lose to Kiwani.
Who's the next 2?
They are at Morrison, and then they are home to Sherrard. I'm just trying to be honest. They could be 4-4 going in that game against Orion. You know that Chip Filler is going to want to knock Rock Ridge right out of the playoffs. And that's going to be his slogan the whole week. We can knock Rock Ridge right out of the playoffs.
They could be needing a win to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know.
It's a really good game tomorrow. I know this is instant Reax, but tomorrow, Erie, Prophetstown, and Orion, really good game. And we had a lot of fun doing the Score on the Road at 11 o'clock this morning out in Orion. Chip's great, and the players were great. We had a fun interview with them. So a lot of fun to look forward to. That's a good game tomorrow. But
both teams need that game also for
playoff
playoff
hopes.
hopes.
The thing about the teams in the Three Rivers is playoff points good enough to get you. If you get that 5 wins, you're going to get in the playoffs. If Rock Ridge gets to 5 victories, they're going to get in the playoffs. If Orion, they're going to get in the playoffs. Same with Erie Prophetstown. But the thing is, are all 3 of those teams that I just mentioned going to get in the playoffs? They all play each other. They all beat each other up a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how many teams make it from there, get to those 5 wins. But yeah, Rock Ridge, really tough. 2 straight weeks where they lose by 2 and 3 points. That's a mental thing now of moving on, making plays down the stretch, and making sure this doesn't become a mental thing. And because physically, they got all the talent in the world.
Last week, we talked about Rock Ridge's offense and how they scored 48 points. This week, in the first 46 minutes of that game tonight, they only had 7 points. And talk about a turnaround. Monmouth-Roseville, in the first game of the season, they got destroyed by Kiwani. And now, I mean, I would love to see Monrose and Kiwani meet in a playoff game. I mean, could you see Monrose and Kiwani in a playoff game, with the way they've been playing these past few weeks? I mean, that would be a tremendous game.
I can see both of them in playoff games, yes.
No, I'm talking I'm talking against each other.
Oh, okay.
I think in that week 1 matchup, I was there, and I think all the credit to Kiwani. We've seen now they're a very good football team on all facets of the game. I think it was a learning curve for Monmouth-Roseville. They were getting
guys back too.
Yeah, they were getting things figured out, and I think it was one of those things that game kind of slipped away from them early. They had turnover upon turnover upon turnover, and that game slipped away. I think they've obviously figured things out. Kiwani continues to impress. So, yeah, you're right, Stock. That would be a great playoff game. I think both of them will look good in the playoffs. Stock, what else we got? Newman wins over Bureau Valley, correct?
Yes, it's the 10th straight meeting that Newman has beaten Bureau Valley. This was not easy. Bureau Valley led 7-6 at halftime. Newman, though, was able to get a couple of TD drives going, and were able to put it away in the fourth quarter. And also,
they won by 12.
Yes, they won by 12, yes. And here's the other thing. Sherrard and Morrison. Morrison beat Sherrard 12-6. In all 4, this was the 4th time they've met. In all 4 meetings, the amount of points Sherrard has scored, 6 in each game.
That is a stat.
That is your stockpile gold.
That's a stat. That's it.
That is a stat.
Getting back,
In the Three Rivers, how many teams are going to make the playoffs? No, don't go back to him. The last thing I need is for him. I mean, you look at Kiwani, Monmouth-Roseville, Princeton, Rock Ridge, Orion, Erie, Prophetstown, Bureau Valley's still in the conversation. Mendota, that's 8. All 8 of those, they're going to knock you. There's going to be some really good football teams that are going to end. There's going to be one that's going to end up 4-5. That's a playoff caliber team. Simply isn't going to make the playoffs because of how good this conference is.
well, and me and Mitch will talk about it. We'll completely break it down on our, podcast on Monday or Tuesday. I think the big game is Orion, Erie, Prophetstown. I think that goes a long way in deciding which one of those teams is the 5 or 6 win team and which one is the 4 win team, don't you think?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, yeah.
But if you look at Steve Soucy's playoff projections,
I only look at Bryan Stocking's playoff predictions.
He's got a bigger crystal ball than I do. He has said consistently that there are going to be multiple 4 and 5 teams that will make the playoffs this year. And if that's the case, there could be a Three Rivers team who's 4 and 5, or maybe even a Western Big 6 team like, say, a Galesburg, possibly, or a UT that maybe falls to 4 and 5 that will get in on playoff points because there's not enough teams with a winning record. I mean, that could happen.
All right, what else? Anything else in the Three Rivers? Where are we at here?
Riverdale goes to St. Bede tomorrow also.
Okay, we got that one as well. Me and
Hall
Mitch.
at Mendota.
Hall at Mendota. That's a good one. That'll be interesting. So me and Mitch will break those down. Real quick, we'll go on a quick side tangent. The referee shortage is rough. It's no good. But isn't there something kind of interesting about getting games spread out over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or do you completely hate that because it kills your Friday?
Completely hate it.
Yes, I think it adds a little interest.
I don't mind the Thursday night ones. Saturdays is just they get lost until playoffs. They just get lost in college football to me.
That's true. That's fair.
I don't want them to have to.
That's because you don't work on Saturday.
No. I have the last 2.
I think in an ideal world, which is completely unrealistic, I think man, if there's a game on Saturday, I could go see a great game on Friday and go watch that one on Saturday. But then reality comes in and I have 4 kids and I'm going to be, dead tired and, anyway.
Talking to Chip Filler today, I'm like, man, that's a 1:00 game tomorrow. I'm like, I should head over. I'm like, no, I have basketball, baseball, all this other stuff for kids. I'm like,
you don't, your kids do.
Yeah, I just have to yell at them while they do it. But, and then, and you mentioned, sleep. If I didn't have to stay at the station doing crazy podcasts with Greg, I could go home, get some sleep, maybe get...
that wouldn't happen either. That wouldn't happen.
We're literally sitting at a table in front of a boatload of candy talking about high school football while Greg puts his phone in our face. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, there we go. All right, are we moving right along? We get into the...
LTC.
The referee shortage, and I'm good friends with Don Umlin. I'm friends with Don Umlin. And he's a referee around the area, and he's going to hold some clinics at Augustana and at St. Ambrose to try to start the training process of referees. Tons of great referees, and we get to know all of them when you do it as long as you do. And they aren't going to argue with it. They're getting older. And they don't want to do double headers. They don't want to do the sophomores and varsity. They don't want to do 2 games in a night, and they just can't. It's hard on them. So it's a thing, and I know that parents want to complain about refereeing. When I complain about the calls and all that kind of stuff, it is a thankless job. They don't make a ton of money, and there's not enough of them. So think about that when you're complaining about a terrible call that you saw that cost your kid a high school football game or whatever. They're lucky to be playing them because you watch these guys go away, and now suddenly you're playing on a Thursday. They moved the game in Orion and Erie Prophetstown to Saturday because of the referee shortage, and they just did it this week, and parents are livid, Chip said, because some cheerleaders have to get their hair done before they go to prom and all these kind of things. Homecoming, all that kind of stuff. So it's just it's a trickle-down effect to we need referees, and we need to treat referees a little better because they don't want to go not get paid a lot of money to get yelled at and stuff. So it's a thankless job. We need them. That's my rant on that. But it's a thing, and they need to get it figured out and get some more people in and involved. And if you're out there and you're listening and you've always been interested in high school football and stuff, I always thought Greg would make a really good referee.
No, I would.
No
way.
No?
No, oh, man, I don't know. I think...
I always thought that Bryan Stocking was a really bad referee.
That's true.
I thought I was a wonderful referee like Jim Tunney or Ben Dreith, you know.
I don't know who they are.
Yep, you're way over my head.
Then you don't know NFL football, you know.
You're more of a Ed Hockley with the big, the big guns, right?
Me and Hockley have the same vocabulary skills, but not body type. No, I'm the opposite of Hockley.
I think Brian's as big as one of his arms.
That's about right.
They used to say Hockley was the gun show. With me, they would probably go, "What a squirt gun show?" I mean.
All right, let's get into the trail, the Lincoln Trail. The big one, the one that stood out to me, A-Town. I thought that this week was one they needed to prove themselves. They're winning, but maybe they hadn't really been tested yet necessarily. They were going up against a great program in Anawan-Wethersfield. They got the job done. Stock, what was the final score?
It was 34-12. A-Town, they were up 22-0 at halftime.
Yeah, so really impressed by A-Town. Looking elsewhere in the Lincoln Trail.
Looks like A-Town's quarterback, Easton Shyster.
Easton Schischler.
Thank you. Schischler.
Don't call him a shyster. That is not nice.
I was not.
Stocking's calling people names now. It's not nice to that kid.
I'm from the Harry Carey School of Pronunciation. But it looked like Easton had a very big game. And I'm going to tell you this, A-Town could very well be 7-0 when they take on Knoxville. And that game is on a Saturday night.
I'm going. We're going. Road trip. Score road trip. We're all going.
I'm in. I work anyway, so I'm in.
That's right.
Although it's a 7 o'clock kick down in Knoxville, I think, that night.
We have no 6 o'clock show right now. College football.
All right, so Knoxville plays tomorrow, correct? They were not tonight.
They play Ridgewood.
Yep.
Okay, so Knoxville plays tomorrow. Mercer County won big on Thursday night over Roeville-Williamsfield. That's
62-22.
62 points for Merco?
Holy Walter days.
Yeah, that's
That's uncle. That's back when they were scoring tons of points.
2015 when they beat West Central 67-8 that year.
dynamite drop in. It's only one game, but that's an eye-opener. That's a big win for Mercer County. Where do they sit now? What's their record?
They're 2-3. Remember, they had the forfeit against a really good Knoxville team, so who knows who would have won that football game, but they're going to have their work cut out for them. I think down the stretch, Stockpile's looking to correct me when I'm wrong, but I believe maybe the last game of the season is Mercer County and Anawan-Wethersfield, and it could come down to maybe them having to beat an Anawan-Wethersfield team to make the playoffs. So, but yeah, 2 victories, still plenty of work left to be done. I don't want to get doom and gloom like old boy over there, but yeah.
They're showing progress, though, because you got to remember, they were on COVID.
Yep.
So they had a lot of players out at different times over the past couple of weeks, so they're starting to get everybody back healthy from that. Interesting note before the game started, Andrew Hofer walked up to me. He's like, hey, can you stand at the 20-yard line for me? And this is just before kickoff. I said, why do I need to stand at the 20-yard line? He goes, I need my kicker to kick to the 20-yard line. He doesn't know where it is, but if I tell him to kick to the cameraman, he will kick to the cameraman. Sure enough, he kicked it to the 20-yard line, which was great. I said, all right, you need to score early touchdowns for me. Yeah. They got 2 early ones. He goes, I held up my end of the deal.
Well, there you go. How about that? Stock, what other scores do we miss in the Lincoln Trail?
The one other thing is next week Merco is at Princeville. They should be 4-4 when they play at home at George Pratt Memorial Field against A&W in Week 9. And United tonight, big game for them. They beat Stark County 44-22. It's the first time that United has ever won at Stark County.
Wow, that is a good. See, that's a real.
Why don't you say that on the score?
I don't get that much time. I only have like 30 seconds. So
That's the best one.
No, it's Connor
that.
Nye.
And did you do Orion or Moline back to back shutouts for the first time? Those are legit good, interesting
yes,
things.
but so's Connor Nye from Milledgeville.
No.
So is the kid from Burlington. We had an Iowa stat, we have an Illinois stat, and we had Connor Nye from Milledgeville. 4 touchdowns in the first half, and he had one for each discipline as the quarterback. He threw one, he ran for one, and he caught one. He actually ran for 2.
Oh my, that sounds like the best segment ever into the Northwest Upstate Illini. Stocking, you are just on fire.
I'm not on fire.
Yeah, you are.
You can't even catch your breath.
That's because I have asthma.
Oh jeez, here we go. Northwest Upstate Illini.
He's just a gem.
Northwest Upstate Illini tonight. Lena-Winslow
Ooh,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
goodness.
I think we know what Fulton is, and we think they're a pretty good program and pretty good football team this year. And, man, this Lena-Winslow team, again, just looks so tough. They get, what was the final on that one?
54-7 at Fulton.
I think so. I think they're the real deal. Another score that kind of caught me off guard, Stocking, what was the final in Foreston-Galena?
Foreston 52, Galena 20.
See, I think Galena's pretty good, but Forest has really come on this year, and they're winning some football games. They look pretty good.
I am stunned at the margin of victory for Lee Win tonight over Fulton. I mean, Fulton's a good team, but Lee Win, my goodness, they won by 40. They won that game by 47. That is amazing. Lee Win could be the best 1A team in the state.
Oh, they are. I think they are.
Lee Win's only given up 13 points all year. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
They've scored well over 200 and only given up 13.
They are very good. The really interesting matchup in the Northwest Upstate Illini was Du-Pec took on St. Teresa from Decatur, and they're the top-ranked team in 2A in Illinois. Du-Pec had a not COVID-related. It was actually Urbana. They canceled their football season. A high school the size of Urbana canceled their football season, I'm assuming because of lack of numbers or whatever the issue was. So Du-Pec was without an opponent. St. Teresa had an opponent with COVID. They couldn't play. So two of the best teams, one of the best teams in 2A and Du-Pec, one of the better teams in 3A, met up. St. Teresa went on the road trip. They got the win. I believe it was close. A one-score game maybe?
Yeah, 28-22 by St. Teresa beat Du-Pec tonight. The game started, I think, at 8 o'clock, so that gave St. Teresa a little extra time to get there. And that a great matchup between St. Teresa and Du-Pec.
All right, give me the stats on Milledgeville, then we're going to be done.
Connor Nye had 4 touchdowns tonight. He ran for 2, he passed for 1, he caught 1, as Milledgeville rolled out to a huge lead over Alden Hebron. It was 46.
Alden Hebron. Alden Hebron.
That's yes, exactly.
Hebron.
Yes, Aldrin Hebron. It was 46-0, and then the Giants scored 16 points late in the fourth quarter to make it somewhat more respectable.
Stocking, as a historian, Hebron, the Little Giants, they were the state champions. They're the Hoosiers of Illinois.
Yes, I have the Harry Carey School of Pronunciation. I have problems with phonics.
Problems with you got a lot of problems.
Don't we all? That we're still here after midnight doing this?
Yeah, we're well after midnight now. All right, Dazzo. No, actually, Stock, final thoughts. Go.
I think that tonight you saw a lot of teams position.
Actually, it was yesterday at this point.
You saw a lot of teams position themselves for the playoffs because now we're in that week 5, pivotal week 5. I think next week's games are going to be even bigger.
Cuff, final thoughts.
I'm curious to see if Kiwani can now run the table.
Yeah, that's a good one. Matt Randazzo, final thoughts.
Their picture in the Western Big Six is getting clearer. I think we all agreed that beginning of the season, 5 teams could maybe win this thing. It's probably down to 2. I mean, Galesburg's still in there. Rock Island is still in there at 2-1 mathematically, but I think the cream has risen to the top when it comes to those 2 teams. And Three Rivers has me just those teams that we talked about. Just the amount of teams that we have that are really good playoff football teams, and nobody's going to make it. Like, they're going to beat each other up to a point. I'm just curious to see. And then also with that, there's going to be some teams that make the playoffs at 5-4 that you are not going to want to see in the first round from that conference. Are you going to want to see a Rock Ridge team at 5-4 maybe come into your house on round 1 of the playoffs?
No. You don't want to see Rock Ridge at 5-4 in the playoffs coming in your bracket because they could knock them out. Yeah. And also, I wonder how many Three Rivers teams will play each other in the playoffs. Well, that will be also interesting to see.
Okay, that was your second final thought.
Yes.
So now you've final thoughts.
Can I have another final thought?
But yes, why not?
My final thought is I think Stocking talks too much. I'm just.
If you are
1 o'clock in the morning, I've eaten candy for the last hour straight.
My final thoughts: just how good is A-Town going to be in the Lincoln Trail and moving forward into the playoffs? and just how good is Monmouth-Roseville, a few classes up in the Three Rivers. Those are my teams that are like, they're standing out to me now. Just how good are they? That's what I'm ready to watch for. And Kiwani, man, I love being there. What a night. Congrats to the Boilermakers. And the pork chop was great once again. All right, Stocking, you're folding up your notebooks, putting things away. Dazzo's still eating candy.
Yeah, Daz will be eating candy till Monday, I think.
All right, we're wrapping it up. That'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're still listening, man, God bless you. Me and Mitch will be around, probably get the podcast posted on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll be looking forward to week 6. That's a wrap. We'll see ya.